Hi, third grade friends. Today we are going to be doing our next math lesson. This lesson is about area. So this is the introduction to area lesson. Last week we did introduction to perimeter. So this lesson is for Tuesday, May 12th. Just like usual, you're going to want to get out a piece of paper and a pencil so you can follow along with us in case you need to write things out or draw. So go ahead and grab those if you don't have them. All right, we are going to start. So first I'm going to remind you that last week we did an introduction to perimeter. And we said perimeter is the distance around a figure. We had to find out how much it takes to get all the way around. Okay, same here, to go around the outside. Today's lesson is about area, and area is about the inside of a figure. I want to know the inside. So, we had a little rhyme yesterday. We're going to learn the rest of that rhyme today. Area is the number of squares needed to cover a flat surface. Okay, so perimeter was if I measure around the outside of something. Area is when I want to measure how much space is inside. Okay, how many squares could fit inside of a shape? A flat surface is area. Okay. Now, there is a way that helps us remember the difference. We learned the first part of this song last week. Perimeter you can measure, add up all the sides. Area is the treasure. It's what's inside. So you'll see I drew a little treasure box here because when we get to a treasure chest, you want to open it and you want to see what's inside. Area is the treasure. It's what's inside that matters here. So our full rhyme that helps us remember. Perimeter you can measure, add up all the sides. Area is the treasure. It's what's inside. Okay? So we're going to be finding the area of shapes today. How many squares can fit inside of a shape? Okay. Now, we're going to be doing that a couple different ways. There are about 3 different ways, just like perimeter, that you're going to see area questions asked to you. The easiest thing that we're going to do today, I think the easiest way, is if it's a square or a rectangle that you're asked to find the area of. There's something very simple that you do. Area of a square or a rectangle is length times width. This is an L. It's written like a cursive L because if I just wrote a line L, it would kind of look like a 1, and that can be confusing in math. So they use this little curly L like a cursive L for length, and then they use W for width. Okay, so the area of a square or a rectangle is length times width. So if we think about a picture of a rectangle like this, here I have the length and width labeled. Now, it doesn't really matter if you say that the 2 is the length or the width, as long as you say the 2 is one and then the 8 is the other. So you could say 8 is the length and 2 is the width, or you could say 2 is the length and 8 is the width. Doesn't really matter. But I would find this by doing 8 times 2, which is my length times width. 8 times 2, which is 16. Now, with area, our label is a little different. We talked last week with perimeter. Our answer is the number and then whatever the units were. Centimeters, feet, So when I go around the edges of a shape, if I get 18, it would be 18 units, 18 centimeters, 18 inches, 18 feet, 18 meters, whatever it was labeled. With area, we're trying to figure out how many squares fit inside. So our label is square units. Sometimes it'll say SQ, which stands for square. Sometimes it'll say the whole word square. And sometimes it'll say units, and then it'll have this 2 that's like a little tiny 2, and it's up high. That also means squared. So this would be 16 units squared, which is the same as square units. So there's a couple different ways you're going to see that written out. Okay, but the main idea of what we've done so far is that we can find the area of a square or rectangle by doing the length times the width. Okay, now sometimes the rectangle might have an 8 up here, and an 8 down here, and a 2 over here, and a 2 over here. But I'm not adding them all like I am with perimeter. I just take one side times the other side, the two numbers that aren't the same on a rectangle. Okay? All right. We're going to talk about two other ways that you're going to see some of these. You're going to see them on grid paper, which already has the squares, which is actually really nice. You just have to count how many squares there are. And then you're going to see it on dot paper, where you kind of have to connect the lines yourself. We're going to start on grid paper. So I think these are also pretty easy. If I show you this shape, it's a wacky shape. It's not a regular square or rectangle. Okay, let's look at that. That's a strange shape, and I outlined the shape in orange. Okay, I went in to find the area or how many squares fit inside, and I counted them. And I wrote the number as I counted, so it would be easier for you to see. You'll see I counted, and I got 13 square units here. I just counted the squares, and there were 13 of them. So the area of this shape is 13 square units. Remember, I could have written just SQ units, or I could have written units with a little 2 at the end up high. Okay, it would mean the same thing. I'm going to show you a shape next, and I want you to count the squares inside to find the area. Okay. Here's the shape. You count the squares inside now to find the area. How many squares are inside of this shape? Well, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 squares inside this shape, so the area is 11 square units. That's not too bad, right? All we have to do is count the squares. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you how sometimes you have a choice with that. Here's another one. Okay? And this one, I have done something extra. Now, you have two choices of how you could solve this. You could go through and count each of the squares in the shape, but there are kind of a lot of squares inside. So, we could use the area of a rectangle or square, because this one is a square. You can see the numbers the same on all the sides, so it's a square, which means I can do length times width. What is 6 times 6? You remember? We have a rhyme that helps us if you forgot. I worked and I worked and I picked up sticks. 6 times 6 is 36. So I know the area of this square is 36 units squared, or 36 square units. I could also go through and count them if that's easier for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. There's still 36, whether I multiply or I counted. You may recognize this is kind of like an array. When we did arrays, we counted how many rows and how many were in the row. I'm going to give you this one to try on your own. You can choose. You can either look at this and count the squares inside, or you can use the two numbers I gave you, and you can use area of a rectangle, length times width, to solve. Okay? You solve this one now. This is something you can draw on your paper. You can draw this rectangle. You don't have to worry about all the squares inside right now. But you can draw a rectangle that's tall and skinny. And you can label the top of your rectangle 2. And you can label the sides 7. And you're going to write the area. You'll notice I'm using an A for area equals. Remember, you can either multiply length times width, 2 times 7, or you can count the squares. If you need more time, go ahead and pause here. If not, we're going to go over it. 2 times 7, length times width, equals 14. My area of this would be 14 square units. So if I count them, I'm also going to get 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 units squared, or square units, is my area here. Great. Next, we're going to try it on dot paper. So this was grid paper. The squares were already made for me. I just had to count them. On dot paper, the squares aren't made for me. I have to kind of draw them myself almost. Okay, here's one. And I already gave you the answer. The area is 12 square units. You can see all around there are just dots. The dots aren't connected. I used little dot lines to connect them to make those 12 squares. Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, and the easiest way if you're trying to draw these out to help you is to look at how tall they are, the length and the width. So let's see. If I start here and go over 1, 2, 3. So this is 3 on the top and the bottom. And then I can count the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes down 5. Now, if drawing this out and trying to connect these dots and you don't really see the squares inside, remember you can do 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is what? 15. The area of this shape is 15. Okay? We're going to try a few more. Sometimes it might not be a square or a rectangle, so you'll have to kind of connect the dots to count them. This one is a rectangle though, and it has the sides labeled. The length and the width are 6 and 7. I know that area of a rectangle is length times width, so I'm going to multiply 6 times 7. A couple ways I could do that. If you remember our 7 song, we're going to count our 7 song 6 times. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. So our area is 42 squares. I would much rather multiply 7 times 6 than draw all the little squares in here and count 42 of them. Okay. Now on this next one I'm going to show you, it is again a square or a rectangle. I'm not going to tell you which one. I did not label the sides, so you're going to have to count how many lines there are between the dots for the sides so you can find the length and the width. Okay, don't count the dots, so you're going to get the wrong number. Count the line between 2 dots. Okay. Go ahead. Count up. How wide is this shape? And how long is this shape so you can multiply your numbers? I'm going to go ahead and count with you now if you're having trouble. So we're going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the top and the bottom are 6. Let's go down the side now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sides are also 6. That means this is a square. 6 times 6 will give me the area. We already had this one. I worked and I picked up sticks. 6 times 6 is 36. My area here would be 36 square units. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple more that I'm going to have you try out. Looks like we have about 6 more that we're going to try. Okay. The next one, you're going to need to draw a rectangle. You don't need to worry about all the squares inside, but draw a rectangle that looks like this. One that's long across your paper, I guess wide across your paper, but it's only, it's not super tall. It goes much further across your paper than it will up and down. Go ahead and just make a rectangle like that on your paper. Now, I'm going to recommend, this is a pretty big rectangle, and I don't really want to count all those squares. So I'm going to use the rectangle area is length times width to solve this. Let's figure out the length and the width. I'm going to count down the side first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6. I'm going to multiply 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6 times 10. Remember to count by tens 6 times. What would 6 times 10 be? 60. The area of this rectangle would be 60 square units. 60 square units. This next one is probably going to be pretty hard for you to draw, so I wouldn't worry about it. I am going to hold it right up to the camera because it's not a square or a rectangle. So you're going to have to count the squares inside, okay, to solve. So, go ahead, count up the squares inside this shape. It might take you a minute. Count up all the squares. We need to know how many squares fit inside this shape. If you need more time, pause here. We're going to check it. All right. So going down the side here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. The area is 28 square units. Good. All right. We have a couple we're going to try on dot paper. I think the dot paper is probably the trickiest since they don't give you the squares. You have to be able to look in your mind and see where the squares would be. This is a U shape, like the letter U. Okay, so it does not work length times width like a square. You're going to have to figure out where the squares would be. Let's take a look. Okay, and I'm going to draw on with my pencil a couple to help you. Okay, so I'm going to draw pencil lines to help you see where these would go. Okay, I did one side. I put squares on one side. If I kept putting those squares between the dots, see if you can count and figure out how many, move a little closer, how many there would be. If you need some more time, go ahead and pause here. We're going to count these out. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I already counted this one. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The area of this would be 16 square units. Okay. We're going to try another one on dot paper, but this one is a rectangle. So if you don't like drawing the lines and connecting them, count down the side, across, and do length times width. You could draw a rectangle on your paper like this and label. So, draw a long or a wide rectangle that's not very tall. And I'm going to connect the dots along the sides for us just to help you practice seeing those squares. So I'm only connecting along the length and the width so we can tell. Okay, so let's count 1, 2, 3, 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 times 9 is going to tell me this area. 4 times 9, remember we can use our nines trick. And we can put down our 4th finger and see what we get. Let me see if I can do that for you in a way. 1, 2, 3, 4. On this side I have 3. On this side I have 6. So 4 times 9 is 36. The area of this would be 36 square units. All right, I have 2 more. These do not have squares or dots. It's just a rectangle or a square with sides labeled. So we have to go back to what we learned for squares and rectangles. Area is length times width. Now, don't let me confuse you on this. I'm going to do the other one first. I'm going to do the square first. Draw a square. I'm telling you that one side is 9. And I want to know the area. Since this is a square, if this side's 9, then this is 9, and this is 9, and this is 9. But I only need to know the length and the width. And I'm going to multiply them. 9 times 9. What would the area be? 9 times 9. Use your 9's trick if you need to. Put down your 9th finger. The area of this is 81. 81 square units. Okay, this is the one I almost said, but I decided to save it for last. This one, I'm not trying to trick you, but you might see this. I have a rectangle. And all the sides are labeled, which for perimeter is nice. But this is area. I don't need all the sides. I only need the length and the width. So I'm not going to add, that'd be perimeter. For area, I multiply length and width. So pick the opposite numbers. I have a 4 and a 7. What is 4 times 7? Sing your 7 song 4 times. 7, 14, 21, 28. You should get 28. The area is 28. All right, we're going to just review exactly what we just did so you are ready for your personal math trainer. Okay? We learned that area is the number of squares we need to cover a surface. Area is the treasure. It's what's inside. How much fits inside the shape? We know for squares and rectangles, we can find the side lengths and multiply length times width. And we saw a couple different ways we're going to find problems. You're going to see some just like this. There's no squares or dots inside. It just tells you the lengths and you multiply. You're going to see some like this, where there are no side lengths. You just count the squares inside. And you're going to see some like this, where there are dots, and you have to connect the dots yourself to figure out the square lengths. You can figure out the side lengths with the squares, or you can connect all of the dots and make the squares. Okay? All right, so that was an introduction to area. You're now going to go on Personal Math Trainer, and you're going to complete the assignment Intro to Area. And it does have today's assignment on it, 5/12/2020. All right. Okay. Bye, friends.